A key issue in the Penn State scandal is what happens when you don't report child sex abuse cases to the police. Different states have different laws on whether these people can be charged with a crime. And joining us now is Delaware Attorney General Beau, who's dealt with this issue in his state. Good morning to you, Beau. And you've dealt with this from the perspective of the pediatrician in your state who molested over 100 kids in your state. What would you say are the parallels to that case as well as the Penn State case, and what would your advice be now to investigators and prosecutors in Pennsylvania?
Well, number one, we have an ongoing case, so I'm a little bit restricted on what I can say about our case as it relates to Earl Bradley. But what I can say is that America needs to understand, our country needs to understand that 1 in 4 girls is sexually assaulted before they're 18. 1 in 6 boys is sexually assaulted before they're 18. Only 1 in 10 of these kids ever report it. It's because 9 out of 10 of the perpetrators know the victim or are a familiar relation to the victim. So this is a big problem as it relates to anywhere you have kids and people having access to children. The main thing that I've taken away from all of these, the awful tragedy we've experienced here in Delaware, as well as up in Pennsylvania, is that there should never be a situation. Parents should be very, very careful to make sure that there are never a situation where a child is in a one-on-one setting with an adult without total transparency and openness where someone else can see into that setting. No one-on-ones between a child and an adult.
As you lay it out, this is not just a state problem, this is a national problem, but the states have different ways of dealing with this. Do you think there should be a uniform system of law around the country on this subject?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the second big takeaway, and that is there needs to be, states need to have, Delaware does have a mandatory reporting requirement. Citizens need to understand that children are not responsible for protecting themselves, adults are. And that's why in Delaware we have a mandatory reporting law that says that if you reasonably suspect that a child is being abused or neglected, you have a mandatory duty to report it to law enforcement. That should be the law in the land. I'm the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. I recommend that any state have a similar law. I think about 17 other states have a strict law like that. And if you do, I think you go a long way to making sure you shine a bright light on into child abuse and neglect. The reality is that as a society sometimes we don't want to stick our nose into other people's business. But the reality is our business as adults, whether you see it in a convenience store parking lot or you eyewitness a brutal attack, obviously that is something that needs to be reported directly and immediately to law enforcement.
Pennsylvania doesn't have the same laws as Delaware does. Some people suggest maybe that's part of the reason for the issue escalating to such a degree. I just want to get your opinion on one last thing, and that's law enforcement's role in keeping things like this from occurring.
Well, law enforcement's role is to take seriously any report that you get from a citizen or from anyone that is reporting anything from a bruise to that they observe to actually seeing and eyewitnessing the harm or abuse or rape of a child. Law enforcement needs to take these things seriously. They do. And look, these are some of the most vexing, tragic, awful things that prosecutors and law enforcement deal with. I can't think of anything worse. Mm-hmm. And what law enforcement does take it seriously, and it should be reported to them. We need to get these cases, and people out there need to report.
Delaware Attorney General Beau, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.